My teacher slept with my best friend. I was eating lunch when some random guy walked up to my table and said, "Bro, is it true you're clapping Ms. Diaz?" I almost choked on my sandwich. Ms. Diaz was the teacher everyone gooned to, the one with the Spanish accent that made guys forget how to speak. And according to this guy, I was sleeping with her. "What are you talking about?" I asked. The guy leaned in like he was about to share classified information. "Someone literally saw her bent over because you were hitting it from the back." He smirked at me. My eyes widened. I knew exactly what he was talking about. "Miss." Diaz dropped her pen during our meeting and bent down to grab it. I was just standing behind her waiting for her to hand me some papers. "That's it." I told him that. "Nah, dude, there's a picture and everything. Respect, man." Then he left. I looked around and realized the whole cafeteria had eyes on me. Half the cafeteria looked at me like I was a legend. The other half looked at me like I belonged in prison. My hands felt clammy, and my appetite disappeared. I couldn't even tell which reaction was worse. Yet there I was, sitting in the cafeteria accused of sleeping with my teacher in front of the entire school. And the worst part? There was a picture of something that meant nothing but looked like everything. I thought if people just knew the real story, they'd understand. 2 weeks of an innocent project, a teacher everyone loved, a girlfriend who knew where I was. But I didn't know that none of that would matter, because the normal life I had before that picture was about to fall apart completely. A month ago, Ms. Diaz asked me to stay after class. I thought I was in trouble for something. Maybe I'd been on my phone too much or dozed off during her lecture about symbolism in whatever book we were reading. But she wasn't mad at all. "Johnny, I need a favor," she said while erasing the whiteboard. "I'm running the sophomore essay contest this year, and I need a student volunteer to help organize everything like grade entries and put together the rubric. You're one of my best English students, and I heard you need volunteer hours." She wasn't wrong. My college apps were looking empty in that department. "Okay, great," I said. "When do we start?" She told me twice a week after 6th period. I'd skip study hall and help her out instead. Seemed like a win to me. Free volunteer hours, and I didn't have to sit in study hall staring at the wall. That was it. That was the whole big secret relationship everyone was talking about. Me sitting in a classroom grading papers about what summer means to me, while Ms. Diaz sat at her desk doing the same thing. We barely even talked most of the time. She'd play music from her laptop. I'd read essays and mark them on a scale of 1 to 10. Sometimes we'd compare scores if we disagreed on one. "You gave this kid a 6? She asked me once. He used the word summer 23 times in 5 paragraphs. I counted. She was right. We changed it to a 4. Sometimes she'd make a joke about how bad the handwriting was. "I think this one was written during an earthquake," she said, holding up a paper that looked like a doctor's prescription. That was the extent of our deep, intimate connection. 2 people in a room doing homework together and occasionally roasting bad essays. Miss Diaz wasn't even the type of teacher who gave off weird vibes. She was everyone's favorite. The kind of teacher who actually remembered your name and asked about your weekend like she cared. She'd been at the school for 3 years and never had a single complaint against her. Not one. Parents loved her. Students loved her. The administration loved her. She was 26, which, yeah, is young for a teacher, but she never acted inappropriate with anyone. She didn't add students on social media. She didn't text anyone outside of school stuff. She kept the door open during every single meeting we had. "Policy," she said when I asked her about it once. "Keeps everyone safe." I remember thinking that was kind of overkill, but now I understand why teachers do that. One closed door, and suddenly you're the main character in a rumor that could end your career. I even had a hard time convincing my girlfriend Inez that this was normal when we first started. "You're staying after school alone with her?" she asked, with that tone girlfriends use when they're trying not to sound jealous. "The door's literally always open," I said. She's super professional about everything. It took maybe a week before Inez stopped caring. She saw how boring it was when she picked me up. Just me and Miss Diaz sitting on opposite sides of the room reading papers in silence. Nothing to worry about. We were talking about it one day when Mark walked up and caught the tail end of the conversation. "Dude, I can't believe you stay after school with Diaz," he said. "The guys are so jealous you get to be in there with her for hours." Inez scrunched her face. He leaned in. "You got her number? I'm telling you dudes would pay good money for that." "You, Mark. Sounds like you're the one who likes her." Mark threw his hands up. "Nah, I'm just chasing the bag. Diaz is too old anyway. I'm not into cougars." The whole arrangement wasn't even a secret. Half my friends knew about it because I complained about the essays constantly in the group chat. Just read one about a kid's dog dying on the first day of summer, I texted once. Bro gave it a 10 out of 10 for making me feel things. Teachers knew about it too because Mr. Diaz had to get approval from the office to have a student helper. My mom knew about it because I told her I was staying after school twice a week, and she asked why. Everyone who mattered knew exactly what I was doing and why I was doing it. There was nothing to hide because there was nothing happening. The day that picture happened was just like every other day. I walked into Ms. Diaz's classroom after sixth period. She was organizing papers on her desk and dropped her pen. She bent down to pick it up. I was standing behind her because I'd just walked in and was waiting for her to hand me the stack of essays I was supposed to grade. Someone walked by the door at that exact second. I didn't even notice. I didn't hear a camera click. I didn't see anyone standing there. I just grabbed my papers and sat down and started working like always. Ms. Diaz put on her playlist, and we sat there in silence for an hour, reading terrible essays about summer vacation. When I left, she said, "Same time tomorrow?" And I said, "Yeah, see you then." And that was it. I went to meet Inez. We got food. "How were the essays?" she asked. "Painful," I said. One kid wrote about going to the beach but spelled beach wrong the entire time. She laughed. I went home. I did my homework. I went to sleep. I woke up the next morning thinking it was just another regular day. I had no idea that while I was sleeping, some picture was spreading through every group chat in the school. I had no idea that by lunch the next day my name would be attached to my teacher's name in a way that couldn't be undone. I had no idea that the normal life I just described was already over. I just didn't know it yet. I was still sitting in the cafeteria trying to figure out what to do when I saw Inez storming across the cafeteria. She had that walk. The one where her arms were swinging and her jaw was tight and you knew something bad was about to happen. People moved out of her way without her even asking. A few of them turned to watch where she was headed. When they saw it was my table, they pulled out their phones. Great. More footage for whatever group chat was already destroying my life. She stopped right in front of me and slammed her phone down so hard the whole table shook. "What the hell is this, Johnny?" It wasn't a question. I looked at the screen and saw the picture for the first time. Ms. Diaz bent over, me standing behind her. The angle made it look like we were pressed together when in reality there was like 3 feet between us. But you couldn't tell that from the photo. "Inez, that's not what it looks like," I said, only realizing after how untrue that sounded. "Really? Because it looks like exactly what everyone's been telling me all morning." Her voice was getting louder. People at nearby tables stopped pretending they weren't listening. "How long has this been going on, Johnny? Huh? The whole time we've been together? Before that?" "Nothing is going on. I swear to you nothing happened." "Then explain this." She jabbed her finger at the screen. "Explain why my boyfriend is in a picture with his teacher looking like that." She ran her hand through her face. "Oh my God, I'm such an idiot. It's always the ones they tell you not to worry about." I grabbed her phone to see if I could prove my innocence in any way and stop her spiraling. When I zoomed into the picture, I saw it. Look at the floor right there. You see that?" She squinted at the screen. Her jaw was still tight, but she was listening. That was something. "What am I looking at?" "The pencil, right there by her foot." She dropped it and bent down to pick it up. I was standing behind her because I literally just walked through the door 2 seconds before this was taken. The door is right there. I pointed to the edge of the frame where you could barely see the door frame. Someone took this from the hallway through the open door. They caught 2 seconds of something completely innocent and made it look like something else. Inez stared at the picture for a long time. I could see her brain working through it. See her wanting to believe me but fighting against everything everyone had been putting in her head all morning. I knew what that felt like now. Having something that made sense fighting against something that looked bad. Truth versus a really good lie. "The angle," she finally said. "Yeah, the angle is insane. But Johnny, this looks so bad. Like really, really bad. I know it looks bad. But I'm telling you nothing happened. Nothing has ever happened. You've literally picked me up from those meetings before. You've seen how boring they are. You've watched me grade papers about To Kill a Mockingbird for 2 hours." She was quiet for another minute. Then she sat down next to me and put her head in her hands. The anger was draining out of her, but what replaced it was almost worse. She looked exhausted, defeated, like she'd been fighting all morning and didn't have anything left. "People have been texting me nonstop since first period," she said. "Sending me the picture, asking why I'm still with you, asking if I knew this whole time, calling me stupid for not seeing it. My own friends, Johnny. People I've known since middle school are telling me I'm an idiot for trusting you." My chest hurt hearing that. This wasn't just about me anymore. She was getting destroyed too, for something I didn't even do. I'm sorry, I said. This is insane. I swear to God I didn't do anything. I believe you, she said quietly. But we need to stop this. Like right now. Before it gets any worse than it already is. I nodded. Okay. How do we do that? I don't know. Maybe if we can find out who took the picture, we can make them tell the truth about what they actually saw. Or maybe Ms. Diaz can make a statement or something. Or maybe we can… She didn't get to finish. The intercom crackled, and the secretary's voice echoed through the cafeteria. Loud, clear, and impossible to miss. Johnny Novak to the principal's office. Johnny Novak to the principal's office, please. The whole cafeteria went dead silent for about half a second. One of those silences where you can hear crickets chirping, where everybody stops breathing at the same time. Then the noise exploded. Oh! You're so cooked! You're still a legend, bro. We will remember you, fallen soldier. I stood up, and my legs felt like they weren't attached to my body anymore, like I was watching myself from somewhere outside myself. Inez grabbed my hand and squeezed it hard. It's gonna be okay, she said. Just tell them the truth. Show them the pencil. Explain everything. Her face didn't look like she believed any of that would work, but she was trying. I started walking toward the exit, and that's when it got so much worse. Guys I barely knew started reaching out to dap me up as I passed, hands coming at me from every direction. Respect, bro. You're literally him. Don't snitch, king, no matter what they offer you. Legendary behavior, honestly. Every hand that touched mine made me feel sick. I wasn't a legend. I didn't accomplish anything. But they were looking at me like I'd done something worth celebrating, and the disconnect between their faces and reality made me want to scream. One guy reached for my shoulder, and I shoved his hand away harder than I meant to. Don't touch me, I said, and something in my voice made him step back. I kept walking, but I wasn't letting anyone else put their hands on me. The next guy who reached out, I just stared at until he lowered his arm. A few guys I actually knew well wouldn't even look at me. They just stared at their food or their phones, pretending they didn't see me walk by. I still didn't know which reaction was worse, being celebrated for something I didn't do, or being abandoned by people who knew me. I looked back at Inez one more time, and she was still sitting at the table watching me go. Her friends had already surrounded her. Vultures. I could see their mouths moving, probably filling her head with more reasons to dump me, more evidence I was a liar, more proof that she was stupid for believing anything I said. She looked so small sitting there. So tired. I wanted to go back and protect her from them, but I couldn't. I had to go explain myself to the principal while my girlfriend got torn apart by her own friends. I turned around and kept walking. The principal's office was small, and it felt even smaller with 3 people in it. Principal Franklin sat behind his desk, with his hands folded like a judge about to deliver a sentence. The walls were covered in framed photos of previous graduating classes and motivational posters that felt mocking now. Excellence begins with integrity. Great. Ms. Diaz was already there, sitting in one of the chairs across from his desk. She looked terrible. Worse than terrible. Her eyes were puffy and red. Her hands were shaking in her lap. She was wearing the same blazer she always wore, but it looked wrinkled now, like she'd been sitting in this chair for hours. She didn't look at me when I walked in. She just stared at her hands like if she looked up, she might fall apart completely. Sit down, Johnny, Principal Franklin said. His voice was calm but heavy, the kind of calm that's trying very hard to stay calm. I sat in the chair next to Ms. Diaz, and suddenly I was very aware of how close we were. 2 feet apart, maybe less. The closest we'd ever been outside of that stupid picture that wasn't even close. I'm sure you know why you're here, he said. There's a picture going around, I said. My voice came out weird, higher than normal. It's not what it looks like. That's what everyone says when there's a picture. He leaned back in his chair. Walk me through what happened. From the very beginning. Don't leave anything out. So I did. I told him about the essay contest, how Ms. Diaz asked me to help because I'd done well in her class last year, the volunteer hours I needed for college applications, how the door was always open during every single meeting, Inez picking me up after, my mom knowing exactly where I was every time, about everything, every boring detail, every nothing-happened moment. He listened without interrupting. His face didn't change at all, just watched me talk like he was recording everything in his brain for later analysis. When I finished, he turned to Ms. Diaz. Is this accurate? She nodded. Her voice came out cracked and thin when she spoke. I would never. She stopped and took a shaky breath. Tried again. I'm not sleeping with Johnny. I've been teaching for 3 years and I've never had a single complaint. Not one. I keep my door open during every meeting with every student. I requested him as a volunteer through all the proper channels, all the proper forms. Everything was documented. Everything was completely professional. Something about the way she said it stuck in my brain, but I couldn't figure out why. The emphasis on certain words, the way she said Johnny specifically, like she was being very careful about what exactly she was denying. But I didn't have time to think about it because Principal Franklin was already talking again. The picture, he said. Explain the picture. She dropped a pencil, I said. It rolled under her desk. She bent down to pick it up. I was standing behind her because I'd literally just walked through the door like 2 seconds before that picture was taken. That's it. That's the whole story. 2 seconds. Someone in the hallway saw 2 seconds of something completely innocent and decided to take a picture and make it look like something else. Who took the picture? I have no idea. I didn't even know anyone was there. The door was open, but I wasn't looking at the door. I was looking at my phone, waiting for her to get the pencil. He turned to Miss Diaz. Did you see anyone in the hallway? No. The door was open like always, but I didn't notice anyone. I was focused on getting the pencil. It had rolled pretty far under the desk. Principal Franklin was quiet for a long time. He looked at the picture on his computer screen, then at us, then back at the picture, then at us again. The silence stretched out until it felt like it was choking the air out of the room. I don't know what to believe, he finally said. The picture is damning. I won't lie to you. If you didn't know the context, it looks like exactly what people are saying it looks like. But your story is consistent. You both gave me the same details without any coordination. I'm going to need to investigate this further. Talk to other students. Review the security footage from that hallway. Check all the documentation. He closed his laptop with a soft click. Until then, you two are not to be in the same room under any circumstances. No meetings, no conversations, no passing in the hallway, nothing. If you see each other, you turn around and go the other direction. Understood? We both nodded. You can go. But Johnny, he looked at me with eyes that didn't have any warmth in them at all. If I find out you're lying to me, this will be much more than just a school issue. This will become a legal matter. Do you understand what I'm saying to you right now? I understood. He was talking about police, about charges, about my entire future disappearing because someone took a picture of a pencil rolling under a desk. I'm not lying, I said. He didn't respond, just waved us out like he'd already decided we were probably guilty and was just going through the motions. The second I got home, I started going through every group chat and social media account I had access to. Instagram, Snapchat, close friends stories. I needed to find the original post. Whoever took that picture had to have posted it somewhere first before it spread to everyone at school. I scrolled for hours, checked stories, checked tagged posts, checked accounts of people I barely knew. Nothing. The picture was everywhere, but it was like it had spawned out of thin air. No original source, no first post, just copies of copies of copies spreading through every group chat in every direction. The next morning, I got to school early and went straight to the hallway outside Ms. Diaz's room. I stood in the doorway and looked at the angle. Tried to figure out exactly where someone would have to be standing to take that picture. The lockers across the hall, the water fountain, the corner by the bathroom. I pulled out my phone and held it up, trying to match the angle from the photo. What are you doing? I turned around and saw a freshman staring at me like I was insane. Nothing, I said, and walked away before anyone else saw me standing there like a creep outside the room I was supposedly hooking up in. The investigation took 2 weeks, 14 days, 336 hours. I know because I counted every single one of them. The rumor didn't die. That would have been too easy. Instead, it evolved, mutated, grew into something bigger and uglier with every passing day. By the end of the first week, there were like 15 different versions floating around in group chats and hallway conversations. Someone heard we'd been hooking up since sophomore year. Someone else heard she was pregnant, and I was the father. Another person swore on their life they saw us kissing in the parking lot after school. Guess that guy's dying. One guy told everyone I was bragging about it in the locker room, which was insane because I hadn't been to the locker room in 3 weeks, and I definitely hadn't bragged about something that didn't happen. I found him after gym class. Cornered him when he was walking to his next period. You told people I was bragging about Ms. Diaz, I said. In the locker room. He tried to walk past me, but I stepped in front of him. I haven't been in the locker room in 3 weeks. I have a doctor's note excusing me from gym. So how exactly did you hear me bragging? His face went red. I don't know, man. Someone told me. Someone told you. And you just decided to spread it like it was fact. Look, I'm sorry, okay? I didn't think. No, you didn't think. That's the problem. I walked away before I did something stupid, but at least now he knew I wasn't going to let people just say whatever they wanted about me without pushback. None of it was true, but that didn't matter even a little bit. The lie was more interesting than the truth. The lie was more fun to spread. The lie made better content for group chats and gossip sessions. So the lie kept winning. Over and over and over again. Inez got it worse than me, and I didn't even think that was possible. Her friends wouldn't shut up about it. Every day was a new intervention, a new conversation where they tried to talk sense into her. She'd come to school every morning looking exhausted from fighting with people all night in group chats. Her eyes would have that hollow look from not sleeping. She'd barely eat because her stomach was too knotted up with anxiety. One day, I saw her friend Mia talking at her in the hallway, while Inez just stood there taking it. I walked straight up to them. You got something to say, you can say it to me, I said to Mia. She looked at me like I'd grown a second head. This is a private conversation. No, it's not. You're talking about me. So talk to me. Johnny, don't, Inez said. But I was already done watching her get destroyed for my sake. You want to call someone stupid? Call me stupid. You want to call someone a liar? Call me a liar. But stop taking it out on her because she won't dump me fast enough for you. Mia opened her mouth, closed it, then walked away without saying anything. Inez grabbed my arm and pulled me in the other direction. You didn't have to do that, she said. Yeah, I did. She stayed with me through all of it, but I could tell it was costing her everything she had. Every single day she had to defend a choice that shouldn't have needed defending. Every single day she had to fight her own friends just to stay with her own boyfriend. Every single day she lost a little more of the social life she'd spent years building. I told her once that she didn't have to stay. I would understand if she needed to walk away to protect herself. She looked at me like I'd punched her and said, I'm not leaving you alone in this. That made me feel 100 different things at once, and none of them were simple. I walked in the front door that night, and both my parents were sitting at the kitchen table. Not eating, not talking, just sitting there with my mom's phone face up between them. My dad looked up first, and his face had this expression I'd never seen on him before. My mom didn't look up at all. She just stared at the phone like she was still trying to process what was on it. Sit down, my dad said. I sat. Your mother saw something today in the neighborhood group. He pushed the phone toward me even though I already knew what was on it. Parents I'd known my whole life were discussing whether Ms. Diaz should be fired immediately or if they should wait for the investigation. Half of them were calling her a predator. Half of them were calling me a liar looking for attention. All of them were using my full name like it wasn't attached to a real person who could see what they were saying. Is it true? My mom asked. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Mom, please look at me. She didn't move. Mom, please. She finally lifted her head, and what I saw in her eyes made my chest cave in. Fear. Real fear. Mixed with something I'd never seen directed at me before. Doubt. My own mother wasn't sure if she believed me. It's not true, I said. I swear to God it's not true. Please believe me. Please. I'm begging you. I need you to believe me. Then explain it, my dad said. His voice was harder than my mom's, but I could hear the same fear underneath. Explain the picture. Explain why people are saying these things. Explain how your name got attached to this. I told them everything I'd been telling everyone else willing to listen. The essay contest. The volunteer hours. The door always open. Inez picking me up. The pencil on the floor. 2 seconds of nothing turned into something by someone with a camera and bad intentions. When I finished, they both just sat there. The silence went on so long I thought I might actually die from it. Say something, I said. Please. Say anything. Yell at me. Ground me. I don't care. Just don't sit there looking at me like I'm a stranger. We're scared, my mom finally said. This is serious, Johnny. More serious than you probably understand. I know it's serious, but I didn't do anything. The school is investigating. They're going to look at the security footage and see nothing happened. They're going to check all the documentation and see everything was done right. They'll see the truth. And if they don't? My dad asked. If the footage doesn't show what you need it to show? If the documentation has some gap someone can exploit? What then? Then I'll figure something out. I'm not just going to sit here and let my life get destroyed for something I didn't do. My dad rubbed his face with both hands. Who would do this? Who would take a picture like that and spread it around? I don't know. I've been trying to find out. The original post is gone. Nobody's taking credit. It's like it came out of nowhere. That doesn't make sense, my mom said. Usually when someone has something like this, they want people to know it was them. I know. That's what scares me. Someone planned this. Someone wanted this to happen. And I have no idea who or why. My mom reached across the table and grabbed my hand. Her fingers were cold. I believe you, she said quietly. But this is going to follow you. Even if the investigation clears you. Even if everybody knows the truth. People are going to remember this. Colleges will hear about this. This is going to be part of your life now. I know. Do you? Do you really understand what that means? I understand that I didn't do anything wrong and I'm going to spend the rest of high school being treated like I did. Yeah, I understand. My dad stood up and walked around the table. For a second, I thought he was going to yell at me or tell me I was grounded or something. Instead, he put his hand on my shoulder and squeezed. We'll figure it out, he said. As a family, whatever happens, we'll figure it out. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But the way my mom was still looking at that phone told me some things couldn't be figured out. Some things just left marks that never fully healed. Mark showed up that weekend carrying his controller and a family-size bag of chips, like nothing was different. Like my name wasn't being dragged through the mud by half the school, while the other half turned me into a meme. You trying to run some games or what? He asked when I opened the door. We sat in my room and played for hours. He didn't bring up the rumor once, didn't ask me if it was true, didn't make jokes about it, didn't try to get details or ask what she was like or any of that disgusting stuff other guys had been asking me all week. Just played the game and talked about random stuff like we always did. The new Call of Duty update. The chemistry test we both probably failed. This girl in his art class who he was pretty sure was into him but he couldn't tell for sure. Normal stuff. Boring stuff. The kind of stuff that felt like oxygen after 2 weeks of drowning. When I finally brought up the rumor myself, he just shrugged. Bro, I know you didn't do anything, he said. How do you know? Because you're not that smooth. I laughed for the first time in days, maybe weeks. It felt weird coming out of my chest, like my body had forgotten how to do it. Thanks, I think. I'm just saying. I've watched you fumble every girl you've ever talked to. You stuttered when you asked Inez out. You literally tripped walking up to her. No way you're pulling the hottest teacher in school. He was joking, but it actually made me feel better. It made me think that maybe not everyone in the world had lost their minds. I've been trying to figure out who took the picture, I said. Mark paused the game. Any luck? No. It's like it came out of nowhere. No original post, nobody taking credit. Just suddenly, everywhere. That's weird, right? Usually when someone gets dirt on somebody, they want everyone to know it was them. Exactly. So either it's someone who had a reason to stay anonymous, or someone got them to take it down. You think someone planned this? I didn't answer because I didn't want to sound paranoid. But yeah, I was starting to think someone planned this. We played until like 2 in the morning. He crashed on my floor like he used to do freshman year before everything got complicated. For a few hours laying there in the dark, listening to him snore, I almost forgot my life was falling apart. Almost felt like a normal kid again. Almost. The investigation wrapped up 2 weeks and 3 days after that picture first appeared on someone's phone. When Principal Franklin called me back into his office, I thought I was going to pass out before I even got there. My legs felt like jelly. My hands were shaking so bad I had to shove them in my pockets so nobody would see. Miss Diaz wasn't there this time. It was just me and him. He was sitting behind his desk with a folder in front of him and an expression I couldn't read. We've completed our investigation, he said. I'm going to tell you what we found, and then you're free to go. My heart was beating so loud I could hear it in my ears. We looked at everything, and there's nothing going on between you and Ms. Diaz. The hallway footage shows exactly what you said happened. She dropped a pencil and bent down to grab it while you were standing a few feet behind her, looking at your phone. The whole thing lasted maybe 5 seconds. All the meetings were logged, all the doors were open, everything was done right. You didn't break any rules. I felt like I could actually breathe for the first time in weeks, as if someone had lifted a truck off my chest. I wanted to cry, but I didn't want to do that in front of him, so I just sat there trying to keep my face neutral while relief flooded through every part of my body. No charges will be filed, he continued. No disciplinary action will be taken against you or Ms. Diaz. The picture was misleading, and we've told students to stop sharing it, but we can't control what happens outside of school." He closed the folder. "That said, you and Ms. Diaz are going to stay separated for the rest of the semester. Different hallways, you're getting a new English teacher, no contact at all. This is for both of your protection. Understood?" I nodded, because I didn't care about the restrictions or any of that. I just cared that it was over, and someone had finally looked at the facts and seen the truth. I wasn't going to jail or getting expelled or having my entire future destroyed over a pencil on the floor. "You can go," he said. "And Johnny?" I stopped at the door and looked back at him. "I hope you understand how serious this was. How close you came to something that couldn't be undone. Be more careful about appearances going forward, about how things look. Because the next time something like this happens, there might not be security footage to save you." "I understand," I said. And I did. I really did. But here's the thing about being cleared by an investigation. The people who need to see the results don't care about the results. The people spreading rumors aren't checking in with the principal's office for updates. The lie had been running for almost 3 weeks, and nobody was going to send out a mass text saying, "Actually, we were wrong the whole time, sorry about that." I started correcting people. Every time someone made a joke or a comment, I shut it down. Investigation cleared me. Security footage proved nothing happened. Move on. Some people listened. Most didn't. But at least they knew I wasn't going to just take it anymore. Inez and I were okay, but things felt different in ways I didn't know how to fix. The trust was there. She believed me. She never stopped believing me. But the rumor had planted something in her brain that wasn't fully gone. She'd flinch sometimes when I mentioned staying after school for anything. She'd text me obsessively when we were apart. She'd ask where I was and who I was with in a voice that tried to sound casual but wasn't. I couldn't blame her. She'd spent 3 weeks defending me to everyone she knew, while half of them showed her new versions of the rumor every single day. That does something to a person. That leaves marks even when the truth comes out. 4 days after the investigation ended, I felt like I was getting myself back. I was actually starting to feel almost okay again. In those 4 days, I didn't hear any new rumors. I was sitting in my room doing homework, and for the first time in forever, my brain wasn't running through worst-case scenarios. Then my phone rang with a random area code I didn't recognize. I picked up out of sheer curiosity. "Hello?" It was silent, but not too silent. I could hear someone breathing on the line. "Who is this?" More silence. Then a voice that was distorted and low. Someone was clearly trying to disguise how they sounded. "She wasn't sleeping with you." The line went dead. I sat there staring at my phone, trying to process what I just heard. 5 words, so much emphasis on the word you. She wasn't sleeping with you. Not, she wasn't sleeping with anyone. Not, nothing happened. She wasn't sleeping with you. Which meant she was sleeping with someone, just not me. Which meant the rumors were right about Ms. Diaz, just wrong about who. My hands started shaking again. Worse than they did in the cafeteria when the whole school was staring. Worse than they did in the principal's office when I thought my life was over. Because this was different. This wasn't random gossip. This wasn't someone making stuff up for attention. This was someone who knew something. They had information and wanted me to know that while everyone was investigating me, the real story was somewhere else entirely. I called back immediately. It rang once, then went straight to voicemail. I tried again but got blocked. Whoever called me from that unknown number wanted to deliver that message and disappear. They wanted to plant that bomb in my brain and walk away. I grabbed a notebook and started writing down everything I knew. She wasn't sleeping with you. My brain started racing through everything I thought I knew about this situation. If Ms. Diaz was actually sleeping with someone, it wasn't me. But someone wanted me to take the fall for it. Someone took that picture knowing what it would look like. Someone started those rumors knowing I'd be the one investigated. Someone used me as a smokescreen. And whoever called me just confirmed it. I had no idea who to trust anymore. All I knew was that 5 words rewrote everything. She wasn't sleeping with you. Not, nothing happened. Not, the rumors were wrong. Just not with me. Which meant someone else was. Someone who let me take the fall. The investigation cleared me. My girlfriend stayed. The only person who never doubted me was Mark. He showed up when everyone vanished. Stayed until 2 a.m. when I couldn't sleep. Told me I wasn't smooth enough to pull something like that. But that phone call wouldn't stop echoing. So I started looking for answers. What I found wasn't about some stranger. It was about the one person I trusted most. The next morning, I walked into school with completely different eyes. Every face looked suspicious. Every conversation that stopped when I walked by felt like evidence. I wasn't the same kid who'd been blindly defending himself for 3 weeks. Now I was hunting. First period was useless. I couldn't focus on anything the teacher was saying, just sat there running through names in my head. Who had access to Ms. Diaz after school? Who would benefit from me taking the fall? Who had been acting weird during the investigation? The list kept getting longer instead of shorter. I'd accidentally gotten the guy on my left benched from the basketball team because I accidentally let it slip that he'd been copying my homework. He definitely had motive. The guy by the window had been trying to get with Inez for months before we started dating. She shut him down hard, and he blamed me for it, even though I had nothing to do with her decision. He hadn't been able to look at me since this whole mess started. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I wasn't as invisible as I thought I was. I'd made small enemies over the years without even trying. Guys who lost things because I gained them. Guys who blamed me for problems I didn't cause. Any one of them could have seen an opportunity to destroy me and taken it. I was so deep in my head that I almost missed the bell for second period. I shoved my phone in my pocket and headed toward the bathroom because I needed to splash some water on my face and get my brain to calm down. The hallway was packed with students changing classes, and I weaved through them on autopilot. I pushed open the bathroom door, and that's when I saw Mark. He was standing at the sink with his back to me. His shirt was untucked on one side, which was weird, and he was running water over his hands and scrubbing at something on his neck. He didn't hear me come in over the sound of the faucet, but I could hear him muttering, "Why won't it come off?" "Yo," I said. Mark jumped so hard he almost hit his head on the mirror. He spun around and his face went through about 6 different expressions in 2 seconds. Surprise, panic, something that looked almost like guilt. Then he forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Dude, you scared me," he said. His voice was too loud and too casual to not seem suspicious. But why would he be acting weird? "What's up?" I noticed hair was messier than usual. His shirt wasn't just untucked, it was wrinkled like someone had been grabbing fistfuls of it. And there on his collar, right where it met his neck, was a smear of purple. Lipstick. Dark purple lipstick that he'd clearly been trying to wash off before I walked in. "What's that?" I pointed at his collar. Mark's hand flew up to cover the spot even though we both knew I'd already seen it. "Nothing. Just some marker or something. Art class. We don't have art class until 5th period. I had it early. Special project." "Since when do you do special projects? Since when do you interrogate me about my schedule?" His voice got sharper, defensive. "What's with the 3rd degree, man?" I stepped closer. "Take your hand off your collar." "What?" "No. Why are you being weird right now?" "Because that's not marker. That's lipstick. And you were scrubbing at it when I walked in like you were trying to hide something." Mark's jaw tightened. For a second, he looked like the guy I'd known since freshman year. The guy who showed up with chips when my life was falling apart. The guy who said I wasn't smooth enough to pull anything with Ms. Diaz. Then that look disappeared, and something else took its place. Something guarded. Something I'd never seen on him before. "Fine," he said, dropping his hand. The purple smear was clearly visible now. Definitely lipstick. Definitely fresh. "I hooked up with someone. Happy?" "Who?" "Just some girl. What's her name?" "I don't remember." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You don't remember the name of the girl whose lipstick is literally on your neck right now?" It was casual. We didn't exchange life stories. "Where did you hook up?" "Why does it matter?" "Because you're acting sketchy as hell right now, and I want to know why." Mark's face hardened. "You know what? I don't have to explain myself to you. I'm not the one who just spent 3 weeks being investigated for sleeping with a teacher. Maybe worry about your own reputation before you start questioning mine." The words hit like a slap. Mark had never thrown the investigation in my face, not once. He'd been the one person who never made me feel guilty or suspicious about it. And now he was using it as a weapon to shut me up. "Wow," I said quietly. "That's how it is?" I could see the instant regret in his eyes, or maybe it was the annoyance at being caught. "Look, I didn't mean it like that. I'm just saying you're acting paranoid. You're seeing conspiracies everywhere. Some girl kissed me in the hallway and now you're treating me like a suspect. Maybe take a breath. Maybe tell me who she is and I will." "I told you I don't remember. And I told you I don't believe you." We stared at each other. The bathroom was completely silent except for the drip of the faucet Mark had left running. This was my best friend. The guy who'd been there for me through everything. And right now, he was looking at me like I was a stranger he wanted to get away from. "I gotta get to class." Mark said finally. He pushed past me toward the door. See you at lunch or whatever. He was gone before I could say anything else. I stood there staring at the empty doorway, trying to process what just happened. Mark had been weird before, distracted sometimes, secretive about girls he was talking to, but he'd never flat out refused to tell me something. He'd never looked at me like I was a threat, and he'd definitely never thrown my investigation in my face to win an argument. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. I just couldn't figure out what. The rest of the morning crawled by. I kept replaying the bathroom conversation in my head. The purple lipstick, the panic on his face, the way he'd gotten defensive so fast. None of it made sense. Mark was the type to brag about the girls he slept with. He never shuts up about them. So who was he protecting? And why? After lunch, I had a free period. Normally, I'd go to the library or find somewhere quiet to do homework, but I couldn't focus on anything. I just kept seeing that purple smear on Mark's collar. Kept hearing him say, "I don't remember," like I was supposed to believe that. I wandered the halls without any real destination, just trying to make my brain stop spinning. That's when I saw her. Ms. Diaz was sitting alone on a bench, staring at nothing with her phone hanging limp in her hand. She looked terrible. Worse than she'd looked in the principal's office. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun instead of the neat style she usually wore. Her blazer was missing entirely. She was wearing a simple blouse that looked wrinkled like she'd slept in it, and her face was pale with dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't hide. She looked like someone who was going through something bad, something she couldn't tell anyone about. I knew I wasn't supposed to talk to her. Principal Franklin had been very clear about that. Different hallways, no contact, turn around and go the other direction. But this wasn't about the investigation anymore. This was about a person who looked like they were falling apart, and nobody else seemed to notice or care. I couldn't just walk away from that. I approached slowly, so I wouldn't startle her. "Ms. Diaz?" She jumped anyway. Her head snapped up, and when she saw me, her entire body went rigid. Her face went white. Actually white, like all the blood had drained out of it at once. She squeezed her hand so hard I could see her knuckles straining. "Johnny." Her voice came out strange, high and thin. "You can't be here. We're not supposed to talk." "I know," I said. "I'm sorry. I just wanted to check on you. You look like you're going through something, and I felt bad about everything that happened, and I wanted to make sure you were okay." "I'm fine." The words came out too fast. Rehearsed. "I'm completely fine. You need to go. Right now, before someone sees us." She tried to walk past me, but I stepped to the side to block her path. Not aggressively, just enough to make her stop. "Mr. Diaz, wait. I know something else is going on. I got a phone call last night. Someone told me that the rumors weren't completely wrong. They were just wrong about who." Her face did something complicated. Fear and confusion, and something else I couldn't read. "I don't know what you're talking about. Someone called me from a blocked number. They said you were sleeping with someone, just not me." "That's insane. I'm not sleeping with anyone. The investigation cleared both of us. This is over, Johnny. Let it be over." But it wasn't over. I could see it in her eyes. The way she wouldn't quite look at me. The way her hands were shaking slightly. She was hiding something huge. And that's when I noticed her lips. She was wearing lipstick. Dark purple lipstick that stood out against her pale face. The exact same shade of purple that had been smeared on Mark's collar hours ago. My brain stopped working. It just completely shut down. I stared at her lips and tried to convince myself I was wrong. That purple was a common color. That lots of women wore that shade. That this was just a coincidence, and I was being paranoid like Mark said. But I wasn't wrong. I knew I wasn't wrong. The purple on Mark's collar. The purple on her lips. The way he'd panicked when I caught him. The way she was panicking right now. No. No, 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 no. "Johnny?" Ms. Diaz's voice sounded far away. "Johnny, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." I couldn't speak or move or do anything except stand there with my brain screaming at me to reject what I was seeing. This wasn't possible. This couldn't be real. Mark was my best friend. He'd been there for me through the entire investigation. He'd played video games with me until 2 in the morning. He'd told me I wasn't smooth enough to pull something like this. And the whole time he was the one pulling it? The whole time he was letting me take the fall for something he was actually doing? "I have to go," I heard myself say. The words came out flat and strange. "You're right. I shouldn't be talking to you. Sorry for bothering you." I turned and walked away before she could respond. My legs moved on autopilot, carrying me down the hallway and around the corner and through the doors to the courtyard. I found a bench and sat down hard and put my head in my hands and tried to breathe. It couldn't be true. It couldn't be. Mark was the only person who'd believed me from the beginning. He'd been my rock, my support system, the one friend who never doubted me for a second. But that was exactly what made it perfect, wasn't it? If everyone was looking at me, then nobody was looking at him. I was the distraction, the red herring, the idiot who stood behind Ms. Diaz at exactly the wrong moment and gave everyone someone to blame. I pulled out my phone and texted Inez, "I need to talk to you. Now. It's important." She responded in less than a minute. "Where are you?" "Courtyard, by the fountain." She was there in 5 minutes. She took one look at my face and sat down next to me without asking what was wrong. Just waited for me to be ready to tell her. "I think I know who's sleeping with Ms. Diaz," I said. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. "And you're not going to believe me. Try me." I told her everything. Inez was quiet for a long time after I finished. Her face went through a bunch of different expressions. Confusion, disbelief, horror, then something that looked almost like anger. "Mark?" she finally said. "You think Mark is sleeping with Ms. Diaz?" "I know how it sounds. It sounds insane. Mark has been your best friend since freshman year. He's been the only person besides me who stood by you through all of this. Why would he let you take the fall for something he was doing? I don't know. Maybe he panicked. Maybe he didn't know the picture would blow up the way it did. Maybe he thought the investigation would clear me and nobody would look any further. But the picture was of you, not him. How does that even work? Maybe he didn't take it. Maybe someone else took the picture and he just got lucky that it was me in the frame instead of him. Or maybe someone else is helping him. I don't know, Inez. I don't know how any of this works. All I know is that my best friend had purple lipstick on his collar this morning, and my teacher is wearing the exact same shade, and both of them acted guilty as hell when I tried to ask questions. Inez stared at me. I could see her trying to put the pieces together, trying to find an explanation that didn't involve Mark betraying me in the worst possible way. But we both just sat there in silence because we couldn't come up with anything logical. The fountain gurgled behind us, and students walked by on their way to class, and the world kept spinning like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. Everything I thought I knew about my best friend was a lie. He'd sat in my room and told me he believed me, and the whole time he was the reason I needed someone to believe me in the first place. But the lipstick was the same shade. The timing was too perfect. My best friend had been with my teacher the same morning she panicked at the sight of me. Inez and I sat there trying to find any explanation that didn't destroy everything I thought I knew about Mark. We couldn't find one. There was only one way to know for sure. I was going to corner him after school and make him look me in the eyes and tell me the truth. And if he lied to my face again, I was going to show him exactly what I had on him. No more running, no more deflecting. This ended today. I told Inez we were going to Mark's house. She didn't ask questions. She just grabbed her keys and drove. The whole ride over, neither of us said anything. There was nothing to say. We both knew what we were about to do, and we both knew there was no going back once we did it. Mark's car was in the driveway when we pulled up. His parents worked late, so I knew he'd be alone. I'd been to this house 100 times, watched movies in his basement, played video games in his room until 3 in the morning, eaten dinner with his family on nights when my parents were working. This place used to feel like a second home. Now it felt like enemy territory. I didn't knock. I just walked in through the side door that was always unlocked. Inez followed close behind me. We found Mark in the kitchen making a sandwich. He looked up when he heard footsteps, and the bread fell out of his hands when he saw our faces. "Johnny." His voice came out strangled. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk." "There's nothing to talk about." He chuckled nervously. He looked at Inez, then back at me, then at the door behind us. I could see him calculating whether he could get past us. He wanted to run because he needed an escape from what was coming. There wasn't. "Living room," I said. "Now." Mark clenched his jaw, but he walked past us into the living room. He sat on the edge of the couch with his hands pressed between his knees. Inez and I stood in front of him, blocking any easy exit. "So what's this about?" Mark asked. He was still trying to sound casual, but his voice cracked on the last word. "You know what it's about." "I really don't, man. You've been acting weird all day. First the bathroom thing, and now you're barging into my house. What's going on with you?" "The purple lipstick. That's what's going on with me." Mark knew exactly what I was talking about. His face showed it to me, but he tried to hide it. "I already told you. Some girl kissed me. I don't know her name. Why are you still hung up on that? Because I saw Mizzy Diaz today. I watched his face carefully as I said it. Watched the color drain out of his cheeks and his hands shake in between his knees. She was sitting alone looking like her whole world was falling apart. And she was wearing lipstick. Dark purple lipstick. The exact same shade that was on your collar this morning. That's a coincidence. Purple is a common color. You're lying. My voice was getting louder. You've been lying to my face for months. I know it's you. I know you're the one sleeping with her. Johnny, that's crazy. You're being paranoid. Am I? Then why'd you freak out in the bathroom? Why couldn't you remember her name? Why'd you throw the investigation in my face just to shut me up? Because you were interrogating me like a cop. Because you were acting guilty. I wasn't acting guilty, I was stressed. You were scared because I was getting close to the truth. Mark shot up from the couch. You don't know what you're talking about. Then tell me I'm wrong. I was screaming now. Look me in the eyes and tell me you haven't been sleeping with Ms. Diaz. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. His hands were shaking at his sides. His left eye twitched. I watched him try to form words, but his throat wouldn't cooperate. That's what I thought. Johnny, please. His voice cracked. Please just let this go. Let it go? Let it go? I grabbed his shirt and shoved him back onto the couch. He hit the cushions hard. I spent 3 weeks being called a predator because of you. My parents looked at me like I was a monster. Inez lost half her friends defending me, and you want me to let it go? I didn't mean for any of that to happen. But you let them happen. You let everyone think it was me. You sat in my room and played video games and told me you believed me, and of course you believed me. You knew exactly who she was actually sleeping with because it was you. I was scared, okay? Mark was crying now, tears running down his face, snot dripping from his nose, his whole body shaking like he was cold. I was so scared, Johnny. Every day I thought they were going to figure it out. Every day I thought someone was going to connect the dots. So you let them connect them to me instead. You were going to get cleared. I knew you would. You had alibis and proof and Inez backing you up. There was nothing to find because you didn't do anything. That doesn't make it okay. I know it doesn't. He was sobbing. His face was red and blotchy. But I love her, Johnny. I actually love her. And I couldn't let them destroy her. She's our teacher, Mark. She's 26 years old. I don't care how old she is. What we have is real. Oh my God, you actually believe that. You actually think this is some love story. It is a love story. You don't understand what it's like when someone actually sees you, when someone makes you feel like you matter. I made you feel like you mattered, I screamed. I was your best friend for 3 years, and you threw me under the bus for some teacher who's going to prison when this comes out. She's not going to prison because no one is going to find out. Wrong. I grabbed his shirt again. You're going to tell them. Tomorrow morning. You're going to the principal, and you're telling them the truth. Mark shook his head. No. No way. I'm not doing that. You don't have a choice. I'm not destroying her life just because you want revenge. This isn't revenge. This is you fixing what you broke. Nothing's broken. You got cleared. Your name is clean. My name is not clean. People still whisper about me. Colleges are going to hear about this. My parents still look at me weird. Nothing is clean, Mark. You just told yourself it was so you could sleep at night. It's just that part of me hoped that if they were focused on you, they wouldn't look anywhere else. Part of me thought that if you took all the attention, then me and her could just wait it out, and everything would go back to normal. And what about after? Inez stepped forward. What about when the investigation cleared Johnny? What was your plan then? Mark wiped his face with the back of his hand. That's the thing. If rumors about her ever surfaced again, everyone would just dismiss it. People would say, oh, that's the teacher from the Johnny thing. They already investigated her and found nothing. Nobody would believe it the second time because they already didn't find anything the first time. The words hit me like a truck. He'd used me. Not just as a distraction during the investigation, but as future protection. My suffering was supposed to be his shield for however long he wanted to keep sleeping with her. You used me, I said. My voice came out flat. Dead. You used my nightmare as a cover story. Johnny, please. You have to understand. I didn't plan any of this. The picture wasn't my idea. Some random kid took it looking for drama. It had nothing to do with me. When I saw it, I was terrified because I thought someone had actually found out about us. But then everyone focused on you, and I realized we might actually survive this. Who took the picture? Inez asked. If it wasn't you, then who? I don't know. Some freshman with a camera phone and nothing better to do. It wasn't a setup. It wasn't planned. It was just bad luck that Johnny happened to be standing there at the wrong moment. Bad luck for me. Good luck for you. I know. I know how that sounds. But I swear to you, I never wanted you to get hurt. I just wanted to protect what we have. I stared at him for a long moment. Then I said the words I'd been building toward since we walked through his door. You're going to fix this. The next morning, I got to school at 7:15. Inez was already waiting in the parking lot. We stood there watching the entrance and didn't talk. Just waited. 7:25. No sign of Mark. 7:28. Still nothing. 7:29. I was about to tell Inez we were going in without him when I saw his car pull into the lot. He parked crooked. Took a long time to get out. When he finally walked over to us, he looked like death. Red eyes. Wrinkled clothes. He hadn't slept. I could tell because I hadn't slept either. I'm here, he said. His voice was hollow. Empty. Let's go. We walked into the front office together. The secretary looked up from her computer, and her eyebrows rose when she saw the three of us standing there. Can I help you? We need to see Principal Franklin, I said. It's important. Do you have an appointment? No. But he's going to want to hear what we have to say. She looked at us for a long moment. Then she picked up her phone and made a call. 5 minutes later, we were sitting in Principal Franklin's office. Mark in one chair. Me and Inez in two chairs they'd pulled from the waiting area. Principal Franklin sat behind his desk with his hands folded in front of him. He didn't look friendly anymore. Didn't look like the guy who gave speeches at assemblies and high-fived kids in the hallway. He looked tired, serious, like he knew something bad was coming. What's this about? He asked. Nobody said anything. I looked at Mark. He was staring at his hands in his lap. His fingers were shaking. Mark, I said. Tell him. Mark's jaw clenched, his eyes squeezed shut. For a second, I thought he was going to bolt, just jump up and run out of the room and never look back. But he didn't. He took a deep breath, opened his eyes, and then looked at Principal Franklin. I've been sleeping with Ms. Diaz. The words hung in the air. Principal Franklin's face didn't change. He just sat there staring at Mark with those tired, serious eyes. For how long? 4 months. Since the beginning of the school year. She was tutoring me in English, and things just happened. Things just happened, Principal Franklin repeated. His voice was flat. A teacher and a student. Things just happened. I know how it sounds, but it wasn't like that. She didn't force me into anything. We both wanted it. Mr. O'Connor, do you understand what you're telling me? Yes, sir. Do you understand that what you're describing is a crime? Mark flinched. It doesn't feel like a crime. It feels like love. Principal Franklin closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, there was something different in his expression. Something hard and cold. And the investigation 3 weeks ago. The one involving Mr. Novak here. You knew about that? Yes, sir. You knew we were investigating the wrong student. Yes, sir. And you said nothing. Mark's voice came out as a whisper. I was scared. I thought if I said something, it would ruin everything. You were scared. Principal Franklin's voice was ice. You watched your classmate get dragged through an investigation. You watched his reputation get destroyed. You watched this school spend 3 weeks investigating the wrong person. And you said nothing because you were scared. I didn't mean for any of it to happen. But you let it happen. You had dozens of chances to come forward, and you chose yourself every single time. Principal Franklin leaned forward in his chair. Do you have any idea what you've done? Not just to Mr. Novak, to this school, to every student who trusted us to protect them, to every parent who sent their kid here thinking we had things under control. Mark was shaking now, his whole body trembling in the chair. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this, Mr. O'Connor. Sorry doesn't give Mr. Novak back the 3 weeks he spent being treated like a criminal. Sorry doesn't undo the damage you've caused. Principal Franklin picked up his phone. Send Ms. Diaz to my office, please. Immediately. He hung up and looked at Mark. You're going to tell me everything, from the beginning, every detail, and then you're going to tell it again when your parents get here, and again when the police get here. Mark started crying, silent tears rolling down his cheeks. He didn't wipe them away, just let them fall. 3 minutes later, there was a knock on the door. Ms. Diaz walked in. She was smiling at first, that polite teacher smile she always wore. But then she saw Mark, saw his face, saw the tears, and her smile disappeared. What's going on? Her voice was shaking. Why is Mark crying? Sit down, Ms. Diaz. She sat in the chair next to Mark. Her hands were trembling in her lap. Mr. O'Connor has just told me something very serious. He says you and he have been engaged in a sexual relationship for the past 4 months. Is this true? Diaz's face went white. She looked at Mark, then at me, then at Inez, then back at Principal Franklin. I don't know what he's talking about. I would never… Camilla. Mark's voice cut her off. It's over. They know. She stared at him. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. And then she started crying. Not the pretty crying you see in movies. Ugly crying. Loud sobbing that shook her whole body. I'm sorry, she gasped between sobs. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I love him. I know that sounds crazy, but I really love him. Love. Principal Franklin said the word like it was poison. You're a 26-year-old woman. He's a student. You don't get to call that love. You don't understand what we have. It's real. It's not what you think. What I think is that you violated the trust of every student in this building. What I think is that you committed a crime. What I think is that you let another student take the fall for your actions and said nothing while his life fell apart. Diaz was sobbing harder now, her makeup running down her face in black streaks, snot dripping from her nose. She looked nothing like the put-together teacher who stood in front of our class every day. Please, please don't do this. I'll resign. I'll leave quietly. Just don't call the police. Please. I'm begging you. You should have thought about that before you started sleeping with a student. Principal Franklin's voice didn't waver. I didn't know that was going to happen. The picture wasn't planned. I never wanted anyone else to get hurt. But someone did get hurt. And you knew. And you said nothing. Principal Franklin stood up from his desk. This isn't a negotiation, Ms. Diaz. This isn't a conversation about what you want. You broke the law. You violated your position. You damaged this school and these students. Now you're going to face the consequences. Diaz turned to Mark, grabbed his hand. Tell them it was mutual. Tell them I didn't force you. Tell them you wanted this too. Mark pulled his hand away. His face was twisted up with guilt. I already told them everything. Everything? What do you mean everything? I told them how it started, how long it's been going on, all of it. Diaz's face crumpled. Whatever hope she'd been holding on to disappeared. She slumped back in her chair like all the bones had left her body. You promised me. You promised you'd never tell anyone. I didn't have a choice. We always have a choice, Mark. And you chose to destroy me. Principal Franklin's face was stone. Ms. Diaz, I'm going to ask you to wait in the conference room while I make some phone calls. Do not leave the building. Do not contact anyone. Do you understand? She nodded, because she couldn't speak. She nodded and let the secretary lead her out of the room. Before she left, she turned back to look at Mark one more time. Her eyes were red and swollen. Mascara smeared across her cheeks. She looked broken. Completely and totally broken. I loved you, she whispered. I really loved you. Then she was gone. Mark put his head in his hands and started sobbing. The ugly kind of sobbing that comes from somewhere deep, his whole body shaking with it. Principal Franklin didn't comfort him, didn't say anything, just picked up his phone and started making calls. The rest of the morning was a blur. Mark's parents came in screaming. His mom called him every name I'd ever heard, and some I hadn't. His dad just stood there with his fists clenched, looking like he wanted to hit something. How could you be so stupid? His mom kept screaming. How could you throw your whole life away for some teacher? Do you have any idea what you've done to this family? Mark just sat there and took it. Didn't defend himself. Didn't try to explain. Just let the words hit him like punches. We're going to be the laughingstock of this whole town. Everyone's going to know. Everyone's going to be talking about the O'Connor kid who slept with his teacher. Is that what you wanted? Is that the legacy you wanted for this family? His dad finally spoke. His voice was quiet, but somehow scarier than his mom's screaming. You're done. Baseball. College applications. All of it. Done. You're going to military school. First one that'll take you. Mark's head snapped up. Dad, no. Please. I made a mistake, but military school. You don't get to negotiate. You lost that right when you decided to sleep with your teacher and let your friend take the blame for it. His dad grabbed his arm and yanked him up from the chair. We're leaving. Now. They dragged him out of the office. I could hear his mom still screaming at him all the way down the hallway. The other students in the front office were staring. Some had their phones out, recording everything. Diaz was fired before lunch. I saw her walking out of the building with a box of her stuff. Head down. Didn't look at anyone. 2 security guards followed her to make sure she actually left. I watched from the window of my second period class. She stopped at her car and just stood there for a minute, staring at nothing. Then she started crying again, put the box on the ground and covered her face with her hands and just stood there in the parking lot sobbing. A cop car pulled into the parking lot while she was still standing there. 2 officers got out and walked over to her. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I saw her nod. Then they put handcuffs on her wrists and put her in the back of the car and drove away. Someone behind me whispered, "Holy crap," and I realized half the class was watching through the window with me. Mrs. Powers tried to get everyone back to their seats, but nobody was listening. We all just stood there watching the cop car disappear around the corner. Mark got suspended. Not just suspended. Expelled pending a formal review. His locker was cleaned out by noon. His name was removed from the baseball roster. Everything that said Mark O'Connor had ever been a student at this school was erased like he never existed. There was talk of counseling, talk of switching schools, talk of legal stuff I didn't understand. His parents took him home around noon, and I never saw him come back. I heard later that they pulled him out of school completely and enrolled him in some online program so he could finish his credits from home. His dad was serious about military school. It hurt thinking about Mark and all those years we spent together. All the memories, video games until 3 a.m, inside jokes nobody else understood, gone, all of it. I never even found out who took the picture of me and Ms. Diaz, or who made the call that led to this, but all of that seemed so small now. 3 weeks of lies had erased 3 years of friendship.